Hello and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Pink Floyd album ranking saga. This would be album number 12. I had to think about it. We're just going to dive right into it. I think that this is going to be the start of the really controversial ones on my list, honestly. I think this is a great one to discuss, so let's do it. At number 12 for my 12th favorite, 4th least favorite, whatever, Pink Floyd album, we have none other than Animals. This is one I'm super excited to talk about because I think this is going to piss a lot of people off. I know so many people who say this is their best album, this is their favorite album, blah, 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 whatever. So I'm really excited to talk about this one. And believe it or not, I actually had this album lower on my list. I actually had this album at number 13 for a while, only above Ummagumma. Literally, I'm not joking. I actually listened to it again a couple days ago all the way through, and I actually raised it a little for when I was making this series. Let's talk about it. So, this was their 10th studio album, maybe, because you had Piper, Saucerful, More, Ummagumma, Atom Heart Mother, Metal, Obscure, Dark Side. Yeah, 10th, I was right. 10th studio album came out in 1977. It is a concept album, if you didn't know. It only has 5 tracks on it, and they are all very similar. We've got the, what is it called? The Battersea Power Station, I want to say, on the cover with the little pig right there. Back of the album, pretty basic. And then on the inside, we have some very creepy looking black and white photos. Interesting fact about this album, it's one of the only Pink Floyd albums, I think, that does not have the members listed anywhere on it. It does under the writing credits here, last names, but it doesn't tell you who the band is. In fact, it really only says Pink Floyd on it in one spot, and that's on there. So, let's talk about this album. It's a concept album. It is one of Pink Floyd's strongest concepts for a concept album. Essentially, the album is about, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to go off of what I have from memory because I was reading on it, and then naturally as I start recording I forget. This album is pretty much written by Waters, primarily. In fact, Dogs is the only song that anyone else even has a writing credit on, and it's Gilmour. 2 songs on side 1. You have Pigs on the Wing Part 1, which is a small acoustic song, 1 minute long-ish, kind of known to be written from Roger to, at the time, his new wife, Carolyn, who was actually mentioned on the wall in one of the songs. The second song, Dogs, is 17 minutes long, and it takes up the entire rest of the side 1. Then on side 2, you have 3 tracks. You have Pigs, 3 different ones, which is 11 minutes long. You have Sheep, which is 10 minutes long, and you have Pigs on the Wing Part 2, which is another minute-ish track, acoustic, written by Roger to Carolyn. So, the concept of the album, and I'm probably not going to go on my computer because you guys can Google the rest. Essentially, it's a take on Roger's views of society. It's an attack on, big wigs, government, money, rich people, stuff like that. And you basically have, and you know what, I'm going to Google it just because I want to get it right for the video because I don't know as much about this album as I should. Okay, so, this album, another fun fact I totally should have mentioned, this is kind of like a response from Pink Floyd to punk, which is funny because it's anti-punk, but it essentially is about the 3 classes of society. The sheep, who are completely mindless, the dogs, who are, sort of predators, and the pigs, who are just completely ruthless and terrible. And if you listen to the lyrics, they really reflect that. In fact, Dogs and Sheep actually predate this album. They were written during the Wish You Were Here sessions. Sheep originally was titled, I think it was Raving and Drooling, and Dogs was titled You've Gotta Be Crazy, which is the first line in it. So, now that we've talked about the album, let's talk about why people like it and why I hate it. I don't hate it. I believe the reason people love this album so much is because a lot of people say this is Roger Waters' writing and lyrics at his absolute best. And I can see that. It is very Roger Waters-y. Very Roger Waters-y. The other reason I think people like it is because it's a very strong concept album, and I think in terms of Pink Floyd concept albums, this is the most concept album-y concept album. Say concept album again. Concept album you're gonna get. It is literally called Animals, and the songs are dogs, pigs, and sheep. That is it, and they are all super long. Which brings up another point. And another reason I'm kind of sad about it is because the album that came out before this, Wish You Were Here, was a solid legend. The album came out after this, which was The Wall, was a solid legend. Then you have this. I'll talk about it. But, crap, what was I going to say? The other thing about this album that I find kind of interesting... Oh, I found Nick Mason's name once under graphics. Anyway, the other interesting thing about this album is this album came out in 1977. This album, in my opinion, is the last gasp, breath of old Pink Floyd trying to hang on. Because you gotta realize, after this album, the long songs that we once knew of on every album, everything from songs like, you know, Welcome to the Machine, some songs like Time, all of those really long songs, especially songs like Shine On, Atom Heart Mother, Echoes, they were gone after this album. This is the last Pink Floyd album that had really, really long songs. The 17-minute, 16-minute, you know, over 8 minutes, really, songs. Because you got to think about, The Wall didn't have any. The Wall's longest song is 6 minutes long. Final Cut didn't have any. Momentary Lapse didn't have any. Division Bell didn't really have any. So this is the last gasp of old Pink Floyd trying to hang on, I think. And for that, I respect it. Let's talk about why I don't care for it. And I love old Pink Floyd, so this is going to be interesting why I would hate an album like this. Pigs on the Wing Part 1, whatever, it's fine. It's a good intro. Dogs, in my opinion, is by far the worst song on this album. In fact, I truthfully find it hard to listen to all the way through. It's 17 minutes long, which that doesn't mean it's bad, because Shine On is 26 minutes long if you put it together. Atom Heart Mother, Echoes, Interstellar Overdrive, oh, God, other freaking long songs, I don't know, Saucerful. I get through those just fine, so why Dogs? It just bores me, honestly. Yeah, the writing is good. Yeah, the guitar is pretty good. You know, that middle section? Yeah, it's good. The part where David Gilmour says Stone 56 times? Yeah, I think that's cool. I think the issue for me is that this song could have been the same length as Sheep, which is 10 minutes, and been the same. I don't think it needs... The best way I can explain it, and I know this is going to get some hate, the song is kind of bloated, and I think that's why I don't care for it. It's just a chore to listen to. And truthfully, no outtakes, the only thing that keeps me going on Dogs is knowing that Pigs and Sheep are coming up. Which is funny because, okay, I've gotten through Dogs, let's put on side 2. Pigs 3 Different Ones is actually a pretty cool song, and I rather like that song, Pigs 3 Different Ones. I just call it Pigs, whatever, because in my mind, Pigs on the Wing 1 and 2 don't exist. They're nothing. But Pigs 3 Different Ones is actually a pretty decent song. First song I ever heard off this album as a kid, because sometimes, in very loose air quotes, you hear it on the radio. You don't anymore, but when I was a kid, you did sometimes on the classic rock stations. Good song. I think the lyrics are great. I think the rhythm is interesting. Guitar's good. I like the intro. That song's about 11 minutes long. I can easily sit through that. That song feels much shorter than it is. Dogs feels longer than that. Dogs feels like an hour-long song, honestly. And then Sheep, which is probably my favorite song on the album. It goes in descending order of which ones I like. Sheep is just a fast-paced, good, ripping song, and it ends with a beautiful, beautiful guitar solo and riff. It is just ungodly sounding. You thought Wish You Were Here was the best Pink Floyd could get? Listen to that end section of Sheep. And that's why this album got moved up a little, single-handedly. Pigs on the Wing Part 2, great ending. Sounds like Pigs on the Wing Part 1. Good send-off for the album. Enough said. And I would actually say I like the song Sheep. It's actually a good song. Unfortunately, Dogs. Which is funny, because a lot of people love Dogs. The other reason that I think this album is kind of cool, and I've heard this from other people, is that excluding Pigs on the Wing 1 and 2, because that's an intro and an outro, essentially, Dogs, Pigs 3, and Sheep, kind of, in a way, they evolutionize off of each other, because Dogs is slow, drawn out, you know, very melodic, quiet, roughly, just slow, easy-going song that really takes its time. Pig's Three Different Ones is a little more fast. Okay, we've got a rhythm going, we've got a beat going, we've got a solid guitar riff, we've got more advanced, different lyrics. Then you have Sheep, which is just this explosion of sound. The whole song, really, up to from about the 2-minute mark in, because you have a really good, beginning section too. Hard, fast, heavy, beautiful guitar work at the end. It's almost like the climax of the album. Like you have, okay, Dogs is the foundation, then you build up to Pigs, and then you hit the peak at Sheep. That's the top of the mountain right there, is that end guitar part. And if you've never heard it, go listen to Sheep anyway, but go listen to the end, especially about 8 minutes in towards the end. It's beautiful, and the last stanza of that song is amazing too. The last line of the song and the last lyrics for the most part of the album are, get out of the road if you want to grow old. Start guitar solo. In fact, I'll get you the actual lyrics because I am now forgetting them, but there's a really great last stanza in that song. Have you heard the news? The dogs are dead. You better stay home and do as you're told. You better get out of the road if you want to grow old. What a good ending to that album, because it is kind of the culmination of the whole album. Man, it's good. In fact, I would go to say that song is amazing. It's just a beautiful ending. Now, I will warn you, if you've never listened to any song on this album, don't go and listen to just Dogs or Sheep. Listen to the whole album. I know I'm saying it sucks. Well, it doesn't suck. It's just annoying. But give it sit 40 minutes aside and give it a listen, because it is worth listening to the whole thing. It will make more sense. It's like listening to The Wall and listening to freaking, I don't know, like The Happiest Days of Our Lives as a shuffle song. Like, it doesn't work. So the main, and I struggle to put this album any lower because it is good, and I would listen to this over Amagama, Division Bell, any of those. I really would. The problem for me is that because other Pink Floyd albums exist, I can't put this any higher. There are some bands that if this was what they released, just, whatever, this would be the top dog, absolutely. And there are a lot of bands, I think, that could have released this and been, instant #1 top. Granted, it's a very Pink Floyd album. Like, there is no mistaking who you're listening to when you hear Dogs, especially the middle with Stone 56 times. If it wasn't for other albums that are better than this could easily be a higher up. Now, and I know a lot of people who put this at the top of their list, they put it as number 3, number 2. And again, I do understand that, but at the same time, in my opinion, if I'm going to listen to Pink Floyd albums, this is not one that I'm going to go grab instantly. Maybe if I only could listen to, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a hypothetical that would make me want to listen to this. Maybe if I'm just really, hell, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I just want to hear that ending of Sheep, and I'll literally Google the song on YouTube and be like, oh, I want to hear that guitar, that ending. It is beautiful. It's one of my favorite pieces of anything Pink Floyd has ever recorded. It sounds just gorgeous. And I think it single-handedly makes this album go from good to great. I said it, see? Album number 12 here is great. This is a great album, I'm telling you. But unfortunately for me, it's hard to put it any higher because of other Pink Floyd albums. So I don't think I have anything else to say for this one. Pink Floyd, Animals, great album, amazing album, very, it's kind of the culmination of a lot, and believe it or not, this album is also kind of what started Pink Floyd on a downward spiral in a way. This is where Rick and Nick have very little control. Roger has really grasped control. Look at the writing credits. Waters, 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 Waters. Gilmore one time. You know, it's like The Wall. In fact, it's more like the final cut. But, you know, amazing album. I really don't have anything else to say. Go give it a listen. It's wonderful. It's worth the 40 minutes. Sit through Dogs, push through it, because you'll get to Pigs and Sheep, and it's just like a gate being opened when you get to that. I don't know how else to explain that guitar solo. It's so good. So, in conclusion, thank you for watching this episode. Episode 12, album 12, is Animals, the 10th studio album. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, and look forward to number 11. Bye-bye.